Pour yourself a cold one and listen to the best college football picks podcast going, The College Draft. Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft podcast presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Another winning week for my guy Emory Hunt. I love it. He went 6-4 on the week, which means he's now 69-65 on the season. I love it. We're staying in the black, staying above water. You got to check him out on social media at F-Ball Game Plan, or Football Game Plan is his YouTube channel. Big fan of his draft guide. Got an email this past week. Somebody had already signed up to get Emory's draft guide, which is cool. footballgameplan.com/2026 draft guide. Listen, a lot of colleges, this weekend's their last game. They're not going to a bowl. The FCS, they're done unless they're in the playoffs. It's a good time to get the draft guide, or at least sign up for it over at footballgameplan.com/2026 draft guide. Every week, we go over Emory's 10 best bets from the week before, how he did. Then we'll get his 10 best bets for this upcoming week, which is fantastic. And there's always a couple extra topics we can talk about. Perhaps Emory and I will even dive into his thoughts on Shedeur Sanders in that game I called yesterday for CBS between the Raiders and the Cleveland Browns. Emory, let's start with a surprise. Georgia Tech against Pitt. I guess I'm a little surprised, first of all, that Georgia Tech was only laying 2.5 at home in a game they needed to get to the ACC championship game. But the bookies knew what they were doing. That Georgia Tech defense struggled. Pitt won 42-28.
And it was impressive. It made me, as we're watching the game and Pitt jumped out to that big lead, I was like, wow, Pat Narduzzi told us the truth last week against Notre Dame. He truly did not care about that game, and they came in with a terrific plan against Georgia Tech. And Haynes King played, I thought, his worst game of the season with the turnover. The pick six was brutal at a crucial time, but they still had a chance to come back and win, but the defense couldn't stop Pitt. Pitt was a legit juggernaut, and I'm excited to see what they do this week, to be honest.
Yeah, I am with you on that. Pitt, man, that freshman quarterback's changed everything for them.
He looks good, man, and the ball was coming out on time. He wasn't rattled. He was making high-level throws, and you can see why they went to him as opposed to sticking with the previous quarterback. But, man, he looks good, man. To say he's only 18, so the future's bright for him.
You took USC plus the 8.5 at Oregon. Looked good for a while. USC made it a one-score game late, which you had them on the hook with the 8.5 points, but then Oregon able to get that late score to win by 2 scores.
Interesting here, Ross. When we did the show Monday morning, it was 8.5. By the time we got to Saturday, or even Friday night, it was at 10.5. So I was like, wow, well, why is it going that way? And I mean, once again, Vegas knows, and USC just couldn't get out of their own way. Even when they were scoring, it worked. They worked hard to get scores. Oregon made it look easy, so Oregon was definitely the better team.
Charlotte, Georgia, as we had the weird SEC week where a lot of the SEC schools play like FCS teams, which is I'll never quite understand how that happens at this point of the season. It's bizarre. But you took the under 54.5 for Charlotte and Georgia. Those of you that are new, and we welcome all the folks that are watching youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Emory likes to take unders when there's a big spread, a big favorite, because only one team does the scoring. And a lot of times they'll take their foot off the gas late. They'll put their young guys in. They'll put their freshmen in and use it as one of their 4 games. So Georgia won 35-3, so you cleared the under there easily. By the way, while we're on that, Emory, I don't even know if I introduced myself for the new listeners, the new viewers. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman. You can check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. We have a bunch of shows as part of our network. Check those out at Ross Tucker Pod. Um, but I never asked you, Emory, your thoughts on Gunnar Stockton, the Georgia quarterback.
Ross, you already know how I like gamers, right? This is why I was a big fan of Stetson Bennett when he was going through his time at Georgia. And we look at Gunnar Stockton from when he stepped into that SEC title game last year against Texas and still held his own and got them down to score the game with a touchdown. I was locked in because, yeah, it may not be technically great pass to pass, down to down, but man, you can't count that dude out. And so for me, it's like, give me guys like that that can just play ball. Like, go get buckets. And that's what Gunnar Stockton does. That's why I'm a big fan of what he does for Georgia and why they kind of have that Stetson Bennett aura around them this year based on how well Gunnar Stockton gets up for the game.
I think that's a really good point. I actually want to give Kirby Smart a lot of credit. He brings in these quarterbacks that I feel like other people think, nah, that guy can't do it. That guy's not big enough, not strong enough arm or whatever. He just he likes guys that can play, and he feels like they can play. You know, Lad McConkey wasn't getting a lot of offers till Georgia offered him. And I think he was at camp maybe. I think Lad was telling me the story, and was tearing up, and Kirby Smart said, you know what? I think he's just that good. People. What's crazy, and Emory, you and I deal with this a lot. It's when guys don't want to believe their eyes. Like, he can't really be that good. No, he's showing you. Like Devontae Smith had to go to LSU's camp and Alabama's camp because he was so thin. Nobody wanted to offer. And Devontae Smith's like, put your best guy on me. Literally, your best corners here. They can't cover me. What are we even doing?
Ross, and to take it a step further, when we talk about in all industries, people sit there and watch you call a game, college and or pro, and how many times in the comments or you'll see people tweet, Ross is awesome at calling games. How many times people will sit there, man, Emory nailed this underrated prospect. Dang, only one that was talking about this guy that not everybody's talking about was Emory. People don't believe what they see or hear. They don't want to give you the credit, but when it's proven time and time again, maybe you are just that damn good.
Well, I think you are. That's for sure. What about Tennessee? You laid the 3.5 at Florida. That won easily. They won 31-11. BYU, you laid the 2.5 at Cincy. That one. By the way, BYU, we talked about this one of the other weeks. Unrecognizable to the BYU from back in the day. Unrecognizable. Their running back kind of reminds me of Algier, the guy number 4 that they have. That dude is a hammerhead. I mean, he was bouncing off people. These BYU running backs are like made of bulletproof glass or something.
Remember Luke Staley? Remember they had
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing. And LJ Martin was someone that was hurt for the majority of the beginning part of the year. He came back, and that just completely transformed the whole offense. And you're right. This is a more physical brand of BYU than the one we grew up watching, where it was like, 7 wide receivers going out at the same time and just everybody just throwing the ball and Ty Deppin with the Heisman Trophy. But yeah, I love this version of BYU. They embody their head coach.
I would love to see the old BYU play the new BYU and see what the score would be and how it would play out. It'd be amazing. Okay, what about Arkansas, Texas? You took the over 55.5, and I know why you did that. Because Arkansas's defense is not good, and you love Taylon Green, and that won over easily 52-37, Emory.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how Taylor Green goes through the process, man, because again, it's the inopportune turnovers that doomed them. They were in that game against Texas, and then the weird interception where he was just trying to flip it to the tight end, and he ends up throwing right to the defender. And then Arch Manning, like low key, Arch Manning has been balling the last 4 games he's played. So he's starting to turn the corner, which sets up a monumental game this weekend, Ross, between them and Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah. All right, JMU, you laid the 12.5 against Washington State. Was not a great game for JMU, but Most importantly, they got it done for them. They won 24-20. That was a miss, your third miss of the week, Emory. Utah, Kansas State. I mean, you were on point, Emory, with your totals last week, man. I mean, your under went way under. Your overs went way over. Not even a doubt. Utah won 51-47. Since when does Utah, Kyle Whittingham's defense, give up 47 points, but they won?
Bro, they had to come back like 3 times in the game. It was like, yo, they was getting beat by, a lot of points by Kansas State, and then they came back, was up big, came back, and it was down a couple scores and had to go back and forth. Utah is very fun to watch, man, and I love when they play these games at home because wherever the camera's set up, when they make a big play, it feels like the camera's shaking, and it's a great collegiate atmosphere. So good shout out to the Utes, man, making college football fun again.
You know, did I ever tell you that's what we got to get to it, but that's what I want to do when I retire. I want to just go to college football games every weekend, like new stadiums, new tailgates, new food, new beers. All right, what about Louisville? You took Louisville plus the 3.5 at SMU. They got smoked. They got absolutely smoked by SMU, 38-6. Congrats to Rhett Ashley. Did a nice job with that program. And then Notre Dame, Syracuse. You took the over 51.5. It was 70-7. 70-0 with less than a minute left. I mean, you just don't see that, Emory. But you keep talking about Notre Dame style points.
Yeah, they have to, man. And at the end of the day, Jeremiah Love, to me, is your Heisman Trophy winner. And I was giving Syracuse credit of getting 10 points. They didn't even do that. Notre Dame had 21 before the offense even hit the field.
Yeah, that was crazy. All right, so Emory was 6-4 this past week. So now he's 69-65 on the season. Believe it or not, we are moving on to week 14 bets in college football. Don't go anywhere. Got to pay some bills real quick. I tell you guys about good gifts all the time. This is a great gift. Unlimited free photos and video with auraframes.com. Think about your parents. Think about your grandparents. Think about giving them a frame that you can continually add on or edit what pictures, what videos are on that frame. So cool. For a limited time, visit auraframes.com and get $45 off Aura's best-selling carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code DRAFT at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code DRAFT. This exclusive Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal is their best of the year, so order now before it ends. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Telling you right now, the Labatt Blue mini fridge and especially the cooler backpack are like two of the most important items in my life. Especially the cooler backpack. Absolutely love it. And how about me getting it for free? Because I am part of Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt. It's rewards.labattusa.com. #1, Labatt is the best tasting light beer. #2, if you go to Buy Beer, Get Gear, you will see what incredible gear they have at rewards.labattusa.com. And you'll want to drink Labatt even if it's not currently your beer of choice. Rewards.labattusa.com. Let's start with Utah. The Utes with those 2 first-round offensive tackles. They're laying 13.5 at Kansas. Emory.
Trust in the Utes defense to rebound. I know practice is going to be held this week for them, considering how many points they gave up versus K-State. Now, they'll see the same type of problem with Jalen Daniels, who's quietly been solid all season long for Kansas. So I can expect Kansas to score, but I think Utah is just that good and have enough to really cover this 13.5 point spread.
Laying the 13.5 with Utah at Kansas. Man, this game was awesome last year. Georgia Tech against Georgia. Georgia Tech is getting 12.5 points. You're going to take them.
Yeah, I can't trust Georgia Tech's defense, but I can trust Haynes King in the big spot. I can also trust the Georgia Tech team realizing, man, this may be our last spot and chance to get into the college football playoff. So maybe we see a valiant effort just like we saw last year. I just wish they would have beaten Pitt because that would have set the stage for a monumental matchup in this one. Still going to be a good game. I like the fact that Georgia Tech can probably hang around a little bit longer than people think, especially with this being 12.5.
I like Georgia Tech plus 12.5. Also, I still can't believe they didn't win that game last year. That changed a lot of things that they didn't win that game when they absolutely could have. I think they bounced back from the Pitt loss and play better. I don't think Haynes King's going to turn it over like that. What about New Mexico? You're taking the Lobos. What a year they've had. Plus 2.5 against San Diego State. That's a big time matchup in the Mountain West.
Right, that's two really good teams. And quiet as kept, we talk about Bob Chesney and JMU, Jason Eck, and what he did at Idaho. And they beat a couple of FBS teams when he was there, had those guys perennially ranked in the top 7. Now he goes to New Mexico, which has kind of been dormant in terms of success over the long period of time. And he got those guys rolling in year 1. So he's doing a phenomenal job, and this is a great matchup because Sean Lewis has done a great job in his second season with San Diego State. But I like the Lobos, man. I like what Jason Eck is doing. It wouldn't surprise me to see more bigger schools go out and try to grab him and turn, help have him turn their program around, just like he did out there in Albuquerque.
Emory is taking the 2.5 with the Lobos against the Aztecs. Let's do some of these rivalry games. These are fun. Arizona, Arizona State. You like the over 49.5, Emory.
Both teams have the element of explosiveness, whether it's within their run game or with their passing game. I love how Arizona is quietly having a very good year. The year I thought they were going to have last year, but they're having that this season with Noah Fafita and company. And Arizona State still is looking to get into the mix in the playoffs. They're trying to look for style points. I think we're in for a high scoring affair in this rivalry game.
Over 49.5, Arizona, Arizona State. Let's get to one of the big ones. You talked about it earlier in the show. Texas A&M is laying 2.5 at Texas against the Longhorns.
The game that stands out in my mind still, Ross, is that muddy game right after Thanksgiving. Texas A&M, Ricky Williams breaks the college football record. How could you not just see that, hear the call, hear Brent Musburger? Like, all of that was college football. Made me so excited to go play college football. I was like, I can't wait to be a part of something like that, right? And we finally get this rivalry back on the grass. And it's a significant matchup because of how good both of these teams are. And defenses aside, it'll come down to quarterback consistency, passing game consistency, and who can make the least amount of mistakes. This game is going to come down to the last possession. That's why the spread is what it is. I will lay the 2.5 with A&M. I think Marcel Reed has shown he can rise above the okay. They both have great comebacks this year. A&M versus South Carolina and Texas versus Mississippi State. So this is arguably the best game of the weekend. But I like Texas A&M because I like the consistency they've shown all season long, especially I think their run game is better. So I will lean toward the Aggies.
Emory is laying the 2.5 with the Aggies on the road at the Longhorns. What about Texas Tech? You're laying 21.5 big ones at West Virginia?
Yes, and this is where, Texas Tech has shown, okay, we have a team that we're significantly better than, and even though they are still ranked where they are ranked, no one is talking enough about Texas Tech. You got a first-round pick in David Bailey as an edge rusher. You have an explosive offense. You can run everything keeps coming up Red Raiders here. I'm laying these 21.5 points comfortably.
Laying the 21.5 with Texas Tech against West Virginia. What about Miami and Pitt? Another big one for Pitt after that Georgia Tech matchup. You like points. You like over 51.5.
I should wait to see what Pat Narduzzi says about this because so far he had lied to us, Ross. Like, he told us Notre Dame could beat the brakes off us if we don't care. We're ready for the ACC title game. We're getting ready for that. And he went out there and beat Georgia Tech. If Hensel plays like he did since he's been a starter, this is going to be a back and forth game. I know Miami's defense is a stiffer task and a tougher challenge. But man, from what I've seen from the freshman, how he's been able to handle pressure and still make the right reads and throws, you got to like their chances to put points up on the board against Miami. And quiet as kept, the Hurricanes have shown they're locked in right now as they're trying to barrel toward postseason play. So I like this to go over.
What about Ohio State and Michigan, Emory? A huge game every year. And Michigan obviously has their number. We hear about it all the time. It's talked about all the time. Your thoughts on the Buckeyes, who right now are laying 10.5 at Michigan?
Shout out to Michigan, man. Proved me wrong last week, and I thought that game would be a little bit closer back and forth with Maryland, considering they announced that, their head coach is going to come back and they're going to invest more money in the program. Michigan not only went out there and stumped Maryland, but Bryce Underwood on the road had his best day throwing the football because he's usually been inconsistent throwing. They have been minimizing his passing on the road, but they let him go out there and sling it around. He looked great. So now that changes how this game looks against against Ohio State. But they are still the better team. Defensively, they are locked in. They are smart on defense, along with Matt Patricia and having those guys like 11 different coaches out there on the field because they don't make mistakes. And offensively, Julian Sand had gotten better each and every week to where he's become an asset. They're not protecting him anymore. And so I like the fact that Ohio State can get over the hump this year. I will be laying these 10.5 points in a rivalry game against a team they hadn't beaten in 3 times. So give me Ohio State. I trust them a little bit more so than Michigan.
Emory's laying 10.5 with Ohio State against the Michigan team that has their number. I don't know about that one. That feels like a lower scoring, close game. I probably would have gone the other way. What about Oregon? You're laying the 6.5 with the Ducks at Washington. Tough place to play. The Oregon Ducks keep getting it done. They got done against USC. This is a huge game for both these teams also.
It feels like when you watch the games, Ross, Oregon and Washington playing the same stadium. They just changed the end zone paint. It's the same damn stadium, same loud, raucous crowd. But it's a great atmosphere, man. When you think college football, you think of games like this. I trust Oregon now. Oregon, they look like they're back on track. Remember earlier in the season, like they looked like a legit wagon. Well, they're back on track. Dante Moore, his placement on his passes is just tremendous. The confidence in which he plays with, and that defense legitimately, pun intended, flies around to the football. So give me Oregon minus 6.5 against Washington.
All right, then you got Oklahoma is laying 10.5 against LSU.
Yeah, LSU's offense, even with Van Buren at quarterback, still isn't as explosive. They allow teams to hang around. Oklahoma's defense will be a significant test and challenge to that offense to find consistency. I think Oklahoma will steal away enough possessions to where they can cover this 10.5 point spread.
I wanted to take a couple things. So Emory he's laying the points with Ohio State, laying the points with Oregon, laying the points with Oklahoma. I kind of want to get your thoughts on Shedeur Sanders. I will say next week we will dive into all of Emory's bets in the conference championship games, which will be fun. As a reminder, if you don't want to be jotting all these down while you're working out or while you're listening, you can always just go to patreon.com/RTmedia, become a Tuckheads member, and then our guy, producer Jack, posts all of Emory's bets over there every week. Patreon.com/RTmedia. It's only $10. You only need to do it for what? One more month, maybe two. I do want to get your thoughts, Emory, since we talked about him so much over the last 4 years. First time I even knew about him really was you talking about him at Jackson State. What your thoughts were on Shedeur Sanders and his NFL debut?
He looked like Shedeur Sanders, and that was the game that you kind of expected to see him play, given his pedigree coming into the league, what you thought about him on film in terms of his college tape, and they had the right game plan. He just played within himself. He made 2 Shedeur Sanders plays, the 2 deep balls off script. They ran the ball well. Defense complimented what he did. He avoided the huge mistake outside of the play. I thought you did a great job talking about the great play by Charles Stone, who quietly has become a fantastic player for the Raiders in that defense. opposite of Max Crosby. So outside of that one turnover, like Shedeur played solid, and you expect that to happen when you have a guy that you thought was always a first round talent that just went in the 5th round. So it wasn't that he was a 5th round talent going in the 5th round. I think that's why you had the both extremes where you have the over the top guys and the over the top guys on both ends of the do you like him or do you don't like him. Everyone was being disingenuous. Like just to answer the question, he was a first round talent, at worst a top 40 talent that just happened to drop in the draft. That talent is still what it is, and I thought we saw that on display against the Raiders.
Thought it was highly encouraging. The biggest thing to me is he did a really nice job stepping up in the pocket or escaping and keeping his eyes downfield. He wasn't backing out of the pocket. You know, Joel Bitonio, the left guard, told us that they talked with him about that. And man, if he's the type of kid that can fix issues like that in 1 week, you know, I don't know if it's solved for good, but he really looked comfortable throughout the whole game. The interception, I'm not sure if he didn't see Snowden or if he thought Snowden was buzzing into the flat and Snowden kind of duped him and came back underneath the curl. I'm not sure. Either way, it didn't bother me that much. Like, that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little surprised, frankly, that the Raiders didn't heat him up more than they did. It's like, after you watch that Ravens game, why would you not have brought heavy blitzes? They chose not to, and Shedeur made them pay for the most part. Obviously, they didn't need to put up huge numbers, but he certainly performed well enough. It was impressive. I'm really looking forward to seeing, and he's starting this week. I mean, I don't know what Stefanski's saying, but they're not benching him. That would make absolutely no sense whatsoever.
I will say this.
I think people would riot.
Quickly, Ross, I'll say this. The last time they played the 49ers in Cleveland, they won 1917. That was 2023. P.J. Walker was a quarterback. Same defensive effort, and we'll see if that's the case again. That's a winnable game, quiet as kept for the Browns if he starts.
We could talk a lot about the Browns defense and their draft picks, too. Those guys are awesome. He's at F-Ball Game Plan. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. The keg is kicked. We are all tapped out.
Thanks for tuning in to College Draft. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and Fantasy Feast, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.